views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi there, we are ready for the Bronx Buzz, and what we do on this program every week, maybe you already know that, is we talk to Bronx journalists and we get an idea of what they've been writing about, what they've been thinking about, what they've been talking about. You learn about them, you learn more about the borough, and you get a different perspective on things in general. Tonight, we're going to do things a little different. As you might know, we do this from time to time. Rather than print journalists, we're going to look at photojournalists, and we have two fantastic photojournalists coming on the program. Roy Bazan will join us in just a little bit, but we're going to start off this evening with Trevon Blondet. Nice to have you, sir.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about, you have what I think, and at least from reading about you and talking to you beforehand, a really interesting kind of development that got you into photography. It's distinctly Bronx.
Definitely.
And now you're, frankly, I think, an accomplished photographer. So talk to me about, who you are and how you got into taking pictures.
So I grew up in the Bronx. My father and my uncle had cameras all around them.
So it was in your family and it was kind of in the household periodically.
Right. I remember taking my first photos around 3 or 4 years old. I was a kid who had a camera after every class trip. So I would take pictures of the botanical gardens, the Bronx Zoo, my classmates. A lot of them photos were like no photos, but that was me. And then everything.
You always had to have it with you.
Yeah.
Wow, how exciting!
Yeah, I would go to the corner store, pick up a disposable camera whenever I needed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And frankly, and folks, we're going to look at, of course, some of Trevon's work and then Roy's work a little later, and if you ever needed an example of why it's important to give kids a chance to do the things that makes them feel good, that they want to express, you're the living proof of it, right?
Absolutely.
You started at the age of 3. All right, I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm so
no
passionate about it. Bring us up to speed as to how you got from there to here.
So in college, I had 3 credits of the dark room, and then everything turned digital after that. So I got my first digital camera in 2007, and I started photographing Cardinal Hayes events. I was an alumni director for the school.
You had gone to Cardinal Hayes.
Graduated Cardinal Hayes in 1994.
Bronx boy, music to my ears, that's what I love.
And I started documenting everything at the school. I got in with the Bronx Documentary Center, and then my photography skyrocketed. I didn't have a goal with my photography at first, but then at the BDC, we were taught about being activism, talked about being community oriented.
And we were talking beforehand about the real nature of photojournalists, and in a way what you have already described, whether it be from the age of 3, whether you were working, taking pictures of Cardinal Hayes events. The idea was to take pictures so other people would understand something, as opposed to just taking pictures. People use their cell phones now. They take pictures of selfies or whatever, and it's not necessarily a journalist's thing. And you always got that. That was always in your
Right. I want to tell stories with my photographs, minus the words. As I got older, I started including the words to tell more of the story, a bigger story.
How deliberate are some of the images? I mean, I've interviewed so many photographers, and in so many cases they say, well, I didn't really plan on it, but it kind of turned out that way. On the other hand, because they know what they're doing, they've given themselves to get a good shot. In other words, I could try to plan on it. I'm never getting kind of the things you do. Talk to me about that whole aspect of, deliberate, by accident, by design. What do you think about when you look at a scene or you want to shoot something?
I started getting to street photography at the BDC, and basically I walk streets in the Bronx, and I have a scene in my brain, basically. and I stand there for 5 to 10 minutes and figure out what's going to happen here. Something's going to happen if you wait. So I wait, and all of a sudden I see a person crossing, 2 people crossing, or people with umbrellas, all popped up.
And then all of a sudden that tells you
That's-
in your mind, your visual mind, a story that, wow, I can tell this story.
Exactly.
I want to ask this question, then folks, we're going to look at pictures, which you're going to love. I mean, Trayvon's work is just tremendous. Digital versus film. Do you still, at this day, see a value to film photography, or like everybody else, listen, it's easier, it moves quicker, it's certainly less expensive, and you want to shoot digital?
Film never dies.
Really?
Film never
Better
dies.
write that down, because there's a lot of people that don't believe that.
Digital photography is easier. You can get 1,000 photos on one SD card, but with film, you have 12 exposures, 24 exposures.
And you're paying for each one.
Right, and then you have to develop
Think
that,
about it,
and then
yeah.
you print that.
Right.
And so you have to make sure patience and quality.
So because of those considerations, it makes you work harder to be a better
Right,
photographer.
exactly. And that
Wow.
happened with the Jerome Avenue project. I started shooting Hasselblad film camera, and I was used to film, but not Hasselblad, like that process.
Right.
The rangefinder, the light meter, like keeps you steady and slowing everything down.
So you showed me this photo on your phone, and I wanted to make sure we showed it. Tell me about this piano that was covered, and we're going to use that to jump off, and then right after that, we'll show that picture, and then we'll jump off and we'll show some of the other tremendous work that you've done.
So after Jerome Avenue project happened, we had an exhibit at Jerome Avenue, Vasquez Muffler Shop. And then after that, the success from the exhibit, we had some funding, and we produced a book. So we had 40 images for the exhibit. We had 80 images for the book.
Tell me about this piano.
And so I was told, hey, you're an artist. Photography is an art, so you can plan, submit for Sing for Hope. So Sing for Hope is basically a nonprofit. You donate 50 pianos for 50 artists for 50 parks in 5 boroughs.
And that's what this, you did it
Right.
using the photos in the
Yes.
drone. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because now it's time to really look at some more pictures. But for folks who don't know, the city is studying Jerome Avenue for a rezoning and for certain kinds of development. And folks from the Bronx Photo League put together a book using the people who are in that location.
The people in the stories.
In the stories, and we did that on our other show on Bronx Talk. So let's put up some more photos, Jayla and Oshua and everybody else who's in there, and let's take a look at some of the great work that Trayvon has done. Okay, so this, when I saw this, I was like, this is just absolutely brilliant. These are Bronx kids, huh?
Bronx kids, I live in Concourse Village, and there was a Concourse Village Family Day. And so a lot of the politicians set up a playground and barbecued, and a lot of musical acts, and kids are playing. And so these kids
You were just patient enough
yeah,
to get...
right.
You know, to me, and you know how passionate I am about our home borough, this says Bronx to me. These are Bronx kids, and it really is just tremendous. Keep rolling those pictures. We want to see more, as many of them as we can fit in before we got to go. And so this particular shot
That's from Jerome Avenue.
is from the Jerome Avenue study. This was a painter.
That's King B.
Oh, that's King B?
That's
Yeah,
King
there we
B.
go.
He has probably, so I stood walking up and down Jerome. I started noticing all the bees on the gates, on the walls inside the businesses. And I met him probably a year before that at another painting event. So I went to Facebook, punched the name up, and reached out to him and said, hey, I'm doing this, and I want you.
And there it is. And you know what I love about this is kind of the implication of the mask, which he's wearing because of the paint. But there is a sense of, I don't know, protecting your community
Identity,
or
right.
trying to survive, or et cetera, which comes through. Again, to me, these are all really distinctly Bronx. Let's let it rip. Keep going. What do we got next? And this, I'm guessing, also the Jerome Avenue project?
Tessie from Munchtime Diner, 170th Street. I used to go to this diner as a kid. I went to Christ the King Elementary School, and It was on 168th Street. After school, all my friends would go to the diner and hang out and eat, and we'd go back. I live near Yankee Stadium, and the rest of my friends live near Lunchtime.
Right.
So
it was easy to do.
Yeah.
Before we go to the next, talk to me about black and white versus color. I mean, these are all that we're looking at are all black and white photos. Talk to me about when you decide to use one, or for example, did you shoot those in color and then decide they look better in black and white?
the film I shot in black and white. The digital camera, sometimes I convert them to black and white just because the story, I want the
It tells it better.
Exactly. I want the images. I want the color stripped, and then you can look at the photo and you see what's going on.
Let's show some more. All the pictures today, we need 3 hours to spend time because some of these you could just look at and look at and look at. So let's see the next one. What is this one? Well, if this ain't a Bronx scene, we've never seen one. Which train is that? Does it matter?
The 4 train.
It's got to be the 4, yeah.
Right, on the over the rooftop of Casa, New Settlement, on 172nd on Jerome Avenue.
What do you like about this? I happen to love the shadows. I mean, the fact that on the left side it's a little darker, and you almost caught it right during, I guess, sunset, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in springtime, so the sun was setting, and I was there for at least 30 minutes.
How many photos do you take to get a picture like that?
Sometimes one. Sometimes this was one.
All right, keep going. Let's see another one. I want to show another photo. Oh, this I just love.
That was a woman's...
Give folks a chance to read what it says, but go ahead.
That was the Women's March on the day of Trump's inauguration. And I was climbing the scaffolding, trying to get a high vantage to photograph, and I saw her walking with that sign. So I kind of...
And she herself embodies it and is iconic. And I have to make it clear to anybody who is not aware, the quote is from James Baldwin. And frankly, you couldn't have anything more Bronx than that. He's a Dewey Clinton High School alum, of course. Trevon, what's next for you? You work at the Bronx Documentary Center.
We have a project going down the line. I want to talk too much about it, about the group.
Well, we're not going to let you because we got to bring in Roy.
Yeah. The group is getting together, collaborate a big project. Basically, still documenting the Bronx.
Are you allowed to tell me what it is? Not yet?
Not yet.
All right. But then the one thing you're going to tell me is that you'll come back and we'll show more.
I definitely will be back.
As people know, because I've been doing this for so long, you couldn't have a more enthusiastic partner than me, because this, to me, is the way we save the Bronx. Letting people tell our own stories. Trayvon Blondet, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This camera. So this is a digital camera. Can I hold it? Okay?
Absolutely.
Even though it looks like the old style cameras. When I looked at it right away, I said, oh, look at that, a film camera, but it's not. All right, we're taking a break. Roy Bezan is coming on right after this.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family? This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry. Go along, son.
it's always worth it.
Whoa, master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense. Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hey, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We're kind of doing a special show. As you might know, we normally talk to print journalists, but tonight we're talking to photojournalists. And I personally am really enjoying it because they have a vision of the Bronx that they are sharing with us that helps us all understand more about who we are. Roy Bazan, nice to have you with us.
Nice. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Talk to me, same line of questioning that we did with Trevon.
Right,
Talk to me about how you got into photography.
Well, the way that I got into photography was it was my senior year of high school, and I had
What high school?
Bronx Early College Academy.
Which is where?
It's right off of 163rd Street. It's a relatively new school. It's just the Roberto Clemente building.
Okay,
right.
Fair enough.
Right, and one of my friends, he had a film camera, and that pulled me in. So every day,
Like he'd let you use it?
yeah, he would let me see it, and I would ask him about certain features on the camera, and then eventually that led me to buy my own camera, which eventually led me to become a student at ICP at the Point, which is a collaboration between the International Center of Photography and the Point.
And it's the same story, and you're going to see this story everywhere you go in the Bronx. If we give young people an opportunity to do things that inspire them, that give them self-expression, they will turn out great work. It makes them better people. I mean, do I have to say this 40 million times? Well, but it's true.
Yeah,
I see it every time I talk to somebody like Roy and Trayvon.
Well, you're absolutely right. In those 10 weeks, because it's a 10-week program, I learned that photography was no longer just a mode of creating pretty pictures. It wasn't just aesthetics. It was the camera gave you agency to go out into the world and cover stories that weren't being told correctly, especially.
And in a way that didn't, get you bogged down in specific language.
Exactly.
The picture is what it is.
You could just go out and document the world as you see it and tell these stories through your own perspective.
How long ago was that process began for you?
That was 3 years ago.
So it was relatively recent. I mean, the other guy started when he was 3.
I was 17 at the time. Now I'm 20, and today I work for the Bronx Documentary Center as a teaching assistant, providing the same services as the Point. Essentially, I work with preteens, recently senior citizens, in giving cameras and teaching how to take a photo. But not just that, how to go out into the world and document your story.
See the world, use that medium, and translate it into something else.
Exactly.
I'm just so curious about these kinds of things because, others are just photographers, they're not teachers. What inspires you about working with young people and even senior citizens and having them do that?
Well, growing up, I had teachers that would tell me, especially like in elementary school, that, well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether or not I learned something. It was about I will get my paycheck anyway, and that really bugged me. It was maybe 1 or 2 occasions. It didn't happen often, but that always bugged me. So at ICP at the Point, I had teachers that really threw their support behind me. They believed in what I was going to do, and till this day, their support and their mentorship has been key to the person that I am today.
It is role modeling for you to when you sit in front of other people, you say this. You intrinsically understand that this is good. This is how we have to be.
And so I wanted to do the same for the next generation of photographers, because I believe that the next generation of photographers, or just the next generation of kids, are the future of the Bronx. If we give more kids, more preteens, more teens, even senior citizens a camera, they can go out into the Bronx, document stories from the Bronx, and challenge those negative misconceptions of our communities.
All I can tell you is good night. He said it. We don't need to say anymore. Listen, and it can be a camera, it can be a paintbrush, it can be anything. It can be a violin or a piano, or a pen for them to write. We've got to keep doing this, and you won't get a bigger supporter, obviously, than me. This is what we've got to do.
Thank you.
So now tell me about your work. The pictures we're going to see was for part of a trip to Mexico. Is that what it was?
Yes. So after my classes at ICP, I went through some time where I was just kind of taking random photos here and there. But essentially, because of the class, it led me to kind of explore my own self-identity. I also do work in the Bronx, but I'm not going to publish that just yet. I'm still working on it a little bit. I'm trying to refine it. But in Mexico, I went ahead and started exploring.
Like a vacation kind of thing?
Not even as a vacation. It was more about exploring my family. I went over there.
Your family is
yes,
from Mexico. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
I went over there and I started working with my uncle. I started delivering tortillas. I did whatever I could at the time to just kind of be part of their daily life. I wasn't trying to be there as a tourist. I was really trying to.
Or even as a photographer?
Although
in the back of your mind, you probably.
I'm always gonna have my camera, my phone on me to take photos. So it was more about the experiences, and as I went along, I documented it whenever I could.
And so those are the photos we're going to see.
Exactly. Yeah.
And much like we did with Trayvon, I mean, that those photos said to me, the Bronx. And I'm not as close to what goes on in Mexico, but there is really a statement that the pictures themselves make.
Well, I wouldn't have gone to Mexico if it wasn't for the programs at the Bronx. If it wasn't from that support that I have rooted in Hunts Point in the Bronx, I wouldn't have gone out and done that, or just do any of the things that I'm doing today. It was because it started in the Bronx that I'm doing what I'm doing.
And this, you're obviously a young man, and you, who knows in a way what you will be doing in the future. You will always have the camera, and what a great foundation for whatever it is you decide to do. All right, we got to show pictures, man. Come on, that's what we're doing. Let's see what Roy has brought for us. All the way from Mexico. Now, how long ago were these taken?
This was about a year ago.
Put them up, folks.
This was about a year ago. This was in August. This was my first trip to Mexico as an adult. So I went over there with a film camera. I took a Leica with me, but I wasn't able to keep up with the moment. So I took out my phone and I started documenting things with my phone.
And this is?
These are my grandparents right here.
Oh, wow. This is family right here.
This is family.
This is Bronx family.
And these two are my cousins.
What do you like about this photo?
What do I like about it?
I mean, I know what I like about it because you get an immediate sense of what their lives are like, a suggestion of what they're like, a part of their culture. You can see the cross that's right over the mattress. They don't, frankly, appear to be living in luxury. I mean, that's part of it. They appear to be hardworking, faithful people with kids. Well, did I characterize it right?
Well, yeah. My grandparent, like right across from their house is their farmland, and the farmland has been in our generation almost a century. And 2033 the plot of land
in your family
will be there for a century, and he works that land.
And what were they all looking at that time?
So my uncle is directly across, and they were just having a conversation.
Wow.
They were just talking.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Tremendous.
Like a Thursday afternoon or morning?
Yeah, this happens very often. My two cousins.
And where is this?
So the project goes back and forth between two pueblos, and it's called Huehuepiastla, Puebla, and then there's a Xutla, Puebla. One of them is a little bit more developed, the other one's a little bit more suburban. This is in Huehuepiastla. This is.
You can judge so much from this photograph. Of course, the color of the girl's shirt and matches somewhat the blue wall, but the Batman on the young man's the logo.
Yeah.
Boy, it really speaks volumes to me because you can make judgments about poverty, about the conditions people live in, but here's
he's a tough one. I always have.
He's a tough one.
No, really, he is. He'll punch you and you don't want it to hurt, but it hurts.
Well,
bad.
he's Batman.
He's super strong. He's super strong, super brave.
All right, what else we got? We got something good.
And this is my aunt making tortillas, and tortillas are a staple in Mexican culture. So my aunt went ahead and took what she does to feed her family and made a business out of it, so that way she can continue to support her family. And every morning, it starts the night before. They boil corn. The next morning, they grind the corn. They make it into a flour, and then they make tortillas.
And this is actually on the skillet on the stove.
Yeah.
So what an interesting angle.
Oh no, it's super hot, so I just went over to the photo, and got away from it.
Yeah, and what sort of equipment did you use? Are these like cell phone pictures?
These are all cell phone photos.
Wow.
Yeah, these are all cell phone photos.
So what Roy does is add credibility to the concept that iPhone is trying to put out. All right, keep going. Goodness gracious, I love these.
This one's a little bit hard, just because I was documenting family, and one of the hardest parts about documenting family is that you have to document the good and the bad. And I had a family member unfortunately pass away, and I was faced with the decision of continuing to document my family or to not. And the thing that I learned from this trip is that family will always support you. And my brothers, my younger brothers, we're all photographers in the family at this point.
Wow, how interesting.
my brother, he's a student at the Bronx Documentary Center, and one of the things that he helped me with in this trip is to continue documenting, because at the BDC they taught him to always document, no matter what it is. And
so I'm waiting for you to tell me, is this actually the deceased on the bed?
Yeah, he passed away a couple days later.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so again, there's so many stories being told right here, in particular conditions of people living. I mean, I think you'd have to start there. In America, we take so much for granted. But these people lead beautiful, wonderful, fruitful lives, don't they?
Yeah, they work their land, and they live off of their land, and they always stick to family. And that's what I learned so far. I'm going to continue documenting this to wherever it leads me. But so far, what I've learned is that family and living off of your land is integral to daily life in Mexico.
You know, Trevon's not still on the set, but thank you for showing these photos, folks. But I'm going to applaud. I mean, these are, I mean, they're the tip of the iceberg in terms of the size of your work. What do you have on tap next? I realize you said you're going to do more of this, but more immediately, what's on tap?
Well,
what's in your eyes and in your camera at this point?
Right now I'm currently working on a project about a music scene in the Bronx called hydropunk. Now the movement isn't called hydropunk. Hydropunk is a group within the Bronx, and there's concerts going on all over the Bronx in different venues.
I think we just broke news here on the Bronx Buzz. Do people know about this? Am I the only? Was I the last to know, or am I the first to know?
It's still a growing movement, and again, they play in venues all over the Bronx whenever they can.
And like they don't do it in Brooklyn or in Philadelphia or in Chicago. This is yet another form of music being invented here.
This is the scene in the Bronx.
How do I go see it? You're going to let me know?
Well, yeah, there's an Instagram page. It's called Hydropunk. Instead of the O, there's a _punk. And they're planning events every so often.
And what characterizes this? This is a whole other show. And now they're telling me to wrap it up. What characterizes this music that makes it different?
Well, it's not a particular kind of music. It's fluid. It can be trap, it can be hip hop, it can be punk, it can be whatever it needs to be.
So after the show, you're going to clue me in. You're going to invite me, right?
Yeah, right on.
I want to go.
Definitely.
Anything new in the Bronx?
Definitely.
Listen, you are the best, Roy.
No, thank you.
Bezan, thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you also to Trevon Blondette for the tremendous work that they do. The Bronx Photo League, the Bronx Photographers Collaborative, anybody doing art in the Bronx, you're doing the right thing, because that's how we're going to move things forward. I got to go. Good night. We'll see you next week for the Bronx Buzz. Oh, speaking of artwork, on Bronx Talk this week, we're not going to do politics or any of that. We're going to bring some kids in to show their artwork. Good night.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.